topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Well, good evening, and welcome to another segment of Setting It Straight with Miss Gray and co-host. Good night, good evening, good day. How are you guys doing up there? Trey, what's all the way from Virginia? What's happening?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Glad the weather's coming up here.
Okay, this is good. Pastor. Come on in, hail us, salute. Pray, whatever, tell us how you doing out there.
We're doing well. It's Monday and beginning a new week with a lot of hope and a lot of heat. Hope and heat.
Yes. And we're not going to complain. Let's pray. Father, we just thank you. We praise you. We give you glory. For you alone are worthy to be praised. And thank you. It's the last Monday in April, Lord, and you're just moving right along. Before we know it, we'll be in summer and we'll be back in the fall and the winter. And here we go, Lord. But help us, Lord, to just make a new day and accept a new day in you and to do what we are expected to do from the heavenlies. We just thank you and we praise you. We thank you for our beautiful guest tonight, our handsome guest tonight. And we just thank you, Father God. We're your people. We're going to get behind the cross. You do what you do, and that set your captives free. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen and amen.
Amen.
Well, as you know, we got a lot of things going on this month. This is the last Monday in the month. This is it. And throughout the month, we've been talking about, national limb loss and limb difference. I had my occupational therapist on. We also had the library, representative from the library to talk about all the different activities to keep people busy, keep you aware. Please help me welcome Mr. Ryan Geddie of the Amputee Coalition. Where you at, Ryan? Yay!
Hi, thanks so much for having me. Great to be here.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And again, we're sorry for your loss. We just ask God to strengthen you and to guide you and the family involved and everything else. We also want to just have a moment of silence for, there was another shooting, I think that in North Carolina, and then there was another one up north. I think an officer has succumbed to his to the shooting. And then there was 10 people shot at in Sanford recently, here in Sanford, Florida. So we just want to do a moment of silence for that. I don't know why people are losing it. I don't understand it. People of faith, we know that things are happening in the world. Inflation is hitting everybody. I just don't understand why people are not thinking and thinking twice before they do something that they will live to regret. And it's every day now. It's every day now. So, but anyway, this month we celebrate, or we bring into awareness, National Limb Loss and Limb Difference. And there's an organization that is hitting it on the nail. They are in every aspect representing this population. I had never heard of it until I became an amputee. And I was just looking for support because it's a different thing, when you lose a limb, and whether you are aware of it or you're not aware of it. And I just happened to find this organization, and they were having a online dialogue. And I was had my iPad next to my computer while I was listening to them and listening to what services and things that they offer. And then they're like, yeah, go to our web page. We've got a lead advocate certification, and we have some other peer visitor opportunities. And I'm like, so while they were talking, I was just looking, and I was like, oh, wow, okay. And so they was just asking some questions on this one feature of lead advocate. And next thing I know, it said, congratulations, you're a lead advocate. I said, wait a minute. I didn't mean to do, how did I do that? And I love it because I became a lead advocate, one of the lead advocates for Florida. And so I was like, oh my goodness, but I'm not going to out talk and everything. I want Ryan to share his heart and what he feels that, our audience, and we do have an audience, they'll pop in with some questions and things like that. And I'll circle back to make sure we try to answer what we can. But Ryan, talk about the Amputee Coalition. What is it all about? And what do you do? And I'm going to be quiet.
Well, first of all, the Amputee Coalition is a national organization representing the limb loss and limb difference population, of which I am a member of. We're federally funded and privately funded. We're in part by both. We receive a grant from the Administration for Community Living to operate the National Limb Loss Resource Center, which provides resources for people living with limb loss and limb difference. So that's the very high level view of what the Amputee Coalition is. And we provide services, including support groups and advocacy training for people living with limb loss and limb difference. What I do is my official title is Senior Grassroots Advocacy Specialist. So a lot of what I do is organizing people. I attend meetings with lawmakers and other elected officials, and I just try and make sure that the needs of the limb loss and limb difference population are being met at the governmental level.
He does a lot. He does a lot. He's being very humble, but he does a lot, and he has the pulse of government and issues nationally that we need to be aware of. Because unless you're a part of this world, you would not know of what the needs are. You wouldn't know really where to start. It's just so many things, and I love it because they are open as a group to our ideas, what's going on, what are our needs per state, per city. They are aware and they listen. And I'm just so glad that they've got several streams of communication that we as amputees can be a part of, whether it's about the conference. And last year they had their national conference here in Orlando during the week of my birthday. But I said, I have to be there because it's happening in my city. I got to be there. And I mean, to walk in and to see so many people and the companies, we had vendors that were just remarkable and just networking. And you didn't feel out of place. I did not feel. My occupational therapist attended also. And she paid for it on her own, took her own time off. And went to several of the workshops and things like that. And it was remarkable. Ryan, how many people attended those 3 or 4 days that you guys were here? Do you have an estimated number or a guesstimate?
Oh, I'm not sure off the top of my head. Several hundred, for sure. I can't give you an exact number off the top of my head, but several hundred. Just thinking about who was at the big general meetings, certainly a large portion of whom were members of the limb loss and limb difference community, which we were really happy with.
They were happy, and we were getting answers. The workshops I went to, it was just amazing. And I forgot the host name of the one that I went to, but she also had similar losses like myself. So she brought in a lot of her prosthetics that I didn't even know, some of the pieces I didn't know existed. So I was taking pictures of this and talking to my OT as well. And I was like, I got to tell my prosthetic folks, why didn't you refer this to me? And I know, she was from up north, but it's like, okay, this does exist, so it can help me, with my independence as well. So, but yeah, it was remarkable, and everybody was friendly. Nobody had an attitude, and everybody was just nice. They were just trying to help. It was just well attended and just nice people, just really humble folks, and they were from all over. I think we had was a part of my group. There was the parents, the sister, and the young man who just experienced limb loss. And this is the first time they ever attended anything like that. Heard about it. They came from Canada. They flew in from Canada. And the dad was sitting there just really like, oh my God, all of these people. You can look at his body language. And I said, we're not going to bite, right? And he relaxed. He said, I'm sorry. He said, I'm grieving and I'm angry, but I'm trying to learn. I had to come. I mean, he just had so many emotions all over the place. And we were looking at his son's, prosthetics, and the son was asking questions and stuff. They finally just relaxed. I saw them later. They were smiling. They were happy. You really took good care of us, your planning. And I believe you guys are heading to Atlanta this year. So I wish you all well with that.
Yeah, that's right.
I was once in martial arts back in my college days, and I always said I wanted to get my black belt in Tai Chi. And before this happened to me. And so, of course, while I'm going through this, I'm like, well, there goes that. Well, you had not only a Taekwondo degree black belt representative vendor at the conference, but she's not even too far from me. She's in the next city over. And I'm like, oh my God. And we took pictures, and she was showing us self-defense. And I'm like, I can't speak for anybody else, but I can speak for myself. You all don't realize, by choosing the right people to come and to talk to us, how much you answered some dreams, some hopes that most of us would think we would not have, be able to achieve. And so I can only speak for myself. I'm on her Facebook page, and we've been talking back and forth and stuff like that. She's a nonprofit. She helps a lot of disabled people and things like that. So I'm going to go visit her and talk a little bit more. Now, I'm a little biased with Taekwondo folk. I studied Nisi Goju-Ryu, hard karate, and I used to pick at people who took Taekwondo because they were just hands and feet. But, hey, if I could get to my dream and get a black belt in something, I'm going to feel really good. And I feel very comfortable with Michelle. Sensei Michelle. She's very nice and very understanding. All right, guys, don't I'm a social worker. I can out-talk anybody, so I want you to talk to Ryan, ask him some questions and things like that, or anything else, Ryan, you feel that our audience needs to know. Like I said, we're on 100 platforms. I did put it out in the coalition thread that you'll be on tonight. So anything, please feel free to, say what's on your heart and everything.
Yeah, well, again, I'm just really happy to be here and have this opportunity to speak with you all. As we've discussed, we're coming up on the end of Limb Loss and Limb Difference Awareness Month, which has been very successful this year, thanks to all the community members out there that have helped us with the proclamation campaign, especially, which is something that I've been involved in organizing. We've gotten governors in, I think, 28 different states, so more than half across the country to sign a proclamation recognizing April as Limb Loss and Limb Difference Awareness Month, which has been an incredible boon for our advocacy efforts across the nation. It's really important for the advocates, not only as a morale boosting thing to see that the community is visible to people in power, but also it lends significant weight to people around the country trying to get legislation passed to the benefit of the limb loss and limb difference community. It lends the governor's voice to the community. I would also encourage everybody listening to research the So Everybody Can Move campaign. That's something that we're involved in at the Amputee Coalition. That is a movement, a nationwide movement with chapters in states all over to try and have physical activity oriented prosthetics and orthotics covered by insurance to make sure you want to move the way you want to move, that insurance is not going to stand in your way. So I guess that's what I'll say. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has, or talk about whatever you'd like me to talk about.
Okay, guys, jump on in, please.
Thank you. That's Country C coming in. As you mentioned, Ryan, that you touched on a topic that I'm very involved in, and that's in the insurance world. And not only insurance for people under 65, but also individuals who are 65 and over with Medicare. What would be some of the guidance to help individuals when they're faced, like, for example, somebody on Medicare who is facing an amputation due to diabetes? What would be a route that they can take so they can be able to get the support that they need and be able to understand that they're faced with an amputation, and what would be something, or what would be a good direction that they can take so they can be able to overcome the fact that they had an amputation?
Right. Well, I'll caveat this at the beginning with the fact that I am not a medical professional, so I can't give you any official advice on that beyond my own personal experience living with an amputation. But I can say probably the number one thing that I would suggest is to get involved with a support group if you are just facing amputation as an adult, or if you're the parent of a child with an amputation or limb difference, to get involved with a support group, or just a group of people. It doesn't have to be a support group necessarily. Whenever I was young, I was involved with a lot of adaptive athletics, and I think that served the same role in my life that a support group often does for people who are living with limb loss as adults. I'll say, so that's the first thing. I'd say if you're facing an amputation, get involved with the support group. That's something that we're trying to expand across the country through the Amputee Coalition with our support groups that we work with in our hospital partnership programs. So that way medical professionals always have the information they need to communicate with people that are facing amputation. Additionally, I would say that once you are living with limb loss, once you've actually had your amputation, one thing that's really important to do is to keep track of all the things that you would like to be able to do post-amputation, the things that you did for fun, the things that you did around the house before you had your amputation. Because whenever they're asking you about what kind of device you may need, about the kind of care that you may need, they're going to want to know about the activities that you do on a daily basis. They're going to want to know about the level of activity you were at before your amputation, because that's what they're going to use to judge what kind of care you need to get you back to that level if possible. And I see a lot of people really underestimating the amount of activity that they engage in on a daily level, on a daily basis, because it's so normal to them. But for instance, if you're playing with your kids, that's an active activity for a lot of people. If you're cleaning the house, that's an active activity for a lot of people. Mowing the lawn, all of these things that people don't even really consider as a physical activity that you're engaging in, really is important to mention to your doctor post-amputation whenever you're talking about your future care and the things that you want to continue to be able to do.
That was great, and you landed right on that. Go ahead, Pastor.
Thank you.
I'll finish up.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, because my prosthetic company, the main person was Stephanie, who's I've been in contact with over 4 years now, going on 5 years. And the owner was listening in the interview as she was, assessing me. And he went on to make me a cosmetic arm as well for my left arm and hand because he heard me. I was acting. I was an actor. I was in Oprah Winfrey's movie when when this happened to me, and when I went into the hospital. And so he's like, "Well, I've got a prosthetic hand for you. I got to put for my right hand. I got a prosthetic arm for your left hand, a cosmetic one, and a functioning." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, I was already ready to give up. I'm not, I'm gonna call my agents and let them know I'm not gonna be returning, and things like that." And then I happened to go on my agent's website and I looked at my profile. They've added prosthetics to the profile. So I could check off if you have a hand, if you have to have prosthetic toes. And I mean, it's a whole little section there. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. Did you say you would be acceptable for people in every state? This would be acceptable? I don't know what you mean, Country. See, anybody can answer that? Would it be acceptable? Could you expand upon that question a little bit?
Do they mean accessible, maybe?
Oh, the coalition itself? If they're talking about the coalition, yes, it's nationwide. It is nationwide.
Sure,
Yes.
that's what they.
Okay, thank you, Trey. Thank you. But yeah, it's the assessment is very important. So, oh yes, Misty, I'm sorry. Thank you. Hey, Misty. The assessment is very important. Don't hold back. This is what I used to do. This is what I used to do. This is who I was, and they will listen to you, and then you go from there. But the biggest fight, I think, while I was at the conference was the lack of insurance coverage for most people. They were talking about insurance. They were just trying. A few people even were talking about relocating to another state that was, providing better coverage, and offering insurances that, services and things like that. They were really serious about that because they're like, what am I to do? So a lot of depression formed around that because they don't have the coverage. They only have 6 weeks of OT and PT and that's it, our parts. When I was explaining about my prosthetics, every year I go in for an annual, tune-up. Every year, it's in my life plan. And then every 5 years, I can get a new prosthetic, for my limbic arm. And come to find out, the sensors in my limbic arm were from the 60s, 1960s. So then we just found out there's new sensors that are 10 years old. So I went back to my hand surgeon, and he wrote out the script. She needs this updated. So I got new sensors in my arm, and it's a totally new training that I had to go back to OT for, so this is a whole, it's really involved. You have to know what to ask for, and nothing's crazy. You pray that you got a great team, and my prosthetic team and my foot surgeon and my hand surgeon, they're part of my new family. They call and check up. Is everything you need? Are you doing good? It's time for you to come in for your tune-up. But not everybody is fortunate for that. So this is a whole different, and like I've shared on the show earlier that being a therapist and being a social worker, I've never encountered anybody that had prosthetics, that was amputee. The person that did, I remember one coming in many years ago, and he had an alcohol problem. We had to get him detox. I didn't even have time to really ask. I don't know what came first, did the amputeeism or did the drinking? I didn't get a chance. I'm trying to get him to detox so we can dry him out and to see what your needs are. So anything else, guys? Come on, let's talk. Audience, Misty, Country C, ask us some questions.
Well, I think the question I have is, me with the mental health piece. Are there any provisions or that the insurance company will allow for therapy, especially after losing a limb? Because like saying the depression and how people feel after that, from going to being this way to now going to being another way, a new normal. Is there something or extra provisions? Because I'm not sure what the insurance coverages are for Medicare. I'm used to working like with people with the Medicaid industry that has a different, and maybe it's even the same when it comes to, uh, amputee or limb loss. So I'm not quite sure how that will work, but me, I'm always thinking about how people feel and how they're navigating so that they don't fall into a depression.
Right. Well, unfortunately, there isn't one simple answer to that, and really the answer is that it depends on the state that you live in. If you're dealing with the government programs, and it depends on if you have private insurance, it depends on the private insurance you have. Right. So, um, yeah. I mean, I'll say I'm not aware of specific insurance provisions that allow for therapy specifically for after you lose a limb. That doesn't mean they're not there. Um, I'm just unaware of the specifics with that. But it's just going to depend on your state. Some state plans are going to be more expansive than others, and that are going to allow for you to have therapy after a traumatic event, and some are going to be much more restrictive. It's going to be kind of a state by state basis. If you're trying to find information on that, I can absolutely get you connected with one of our patient navigators if you have a question about, and this is to anybody out there, if you have a question about your individual circumstance, we can get you connected to one of our patient navigators at the Amputee Coalition, who can get you connected to resources either through your insurance or otherwise.
Now, I will say, Trey, one of the big components of the marketplace or Obamacare was that mental health was something that had to be covered. And it sounds like from what you were asking, when someone goes through such a traumatic experience like that, there will be some resources in regards to the benefits. And again, it's also dependent on the plan and what they're offering. And then when it comes to Medicare, they do have a mental health also benefit to help individuals face what they've gone through, and they can be able to reach out to speak to somebody in that aspect. So the laws of 2014 really was one of the things that helped out for individuals that when they're facing mental challenges and they need to go through therapy, that had to be something that needed to be covered, and the government really addressed that issue because of what you mentioned.
Goodie Back, do they have used prosthetics that could help the people who don't have insurance? When people trade up, their older pieces could be cleaned up and given to someone in need. Does it work that way? Well, let me go back, Country C, for the other question. When should a process start? I knew enough. When would the paperwork process start in order to get things? Oh, Misty, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. For me, and I think I've shared this on the show, I just knew, being a social worker, that's the one thing I asked of my discharge planner. And I asked for somebody with a master's in social work. And that was the third thing I asked her for. I need you to apply for disability for me. But before I lost my limbs, but my fingers and my toes became necrotic, and my hand. And so I knew whatever's going to happen, I was not going to return to the lifestyle I had. And I told her, I said, I need you to apply for disability for me. And you get all the signatures. There was there, and they already said that this was an inroad for me. I'm going to lose all of my limb. I'm going to, lose my fingers and my toes and my hand. So that was already going into the paperwork. So, and I've shared with you all that my story is different because this was not something, I was not diabetic. I was not a smoker. I wasn't a drinker. I didn't have health issues. I just went to the hospital one night with a stomach ache, and my life changed after that. So if you're already, having the symptoms or the diagnosis of diabetes or cardiac cardiac issues and things like that, there's a conversation your doctors are already having with you that if we don't get this done, this could happen. And that's the conversation I did not have because I didn't have those health issues. So I would say as soon as you know that you're about to go through a life-altering experience, you need to have some conversation going and get your, practitioners ready to assist you with that if that's the route that if they're talking about that being a part of your journey. Country C, what was the other question you asked about? Now that's funny because do they use? Yeah, I called a company that handles used medical equipment because I had a different type of walker. I had a boot for my left leg and because of my toes, and they wouldn't since COVID they won't accept stuff like that. I think prior to 2020 they did, but now they don't. So some of the things I just had to like put outside, and hopefully somebody got it. But most of the time they don't say we recycle those things. It needs to be retrofitted, and there's a whole process you go through just to be fitted. Whether it's your hand, whether it's your foot, it's your arm, it's a whole thing. So, not to my knowledge. And Country City was another question. When people need insurance traded, older pieces could be cleaned up and given to somebody. And does it work that way? Not to my knowledge. Now I could be wrong, but to my knowledge, no. Would it be a good idea to talk with a social worker before things move forward? Oh yes, Misty. If your doctor has already said, you know what, if this doesn't stop, this could happen, especially when it comes to amputation, you need to be talking to somebody now. You need to be talking to somebody and trying to walk that out and see if my insurance covers, what do they cover? I went on disability and I went on Medicare disability though. I think I did qualify for Medicaid briefly, but I went straight to a disability Medicare because of my age and everything. And there's another process that's out there that takes care of all of this. For me, I had to have a life plan. A life planner came to the house to interview me and asked me, who were you? What did you do before? What were you involved in? And I looked at the plan that she typed up and she included all of that. Who I used to be, what I used to do, all my activities and everything. And based on that, she said, these are the things that she will need for the rest of her life. So it's and everybody's situation is different. That's one thing I ran, listening to the folks at the conference, everybody's story is different. Do you feel that there are enough programs out there for people to get help? Ryan, take that one, and then Pastor, you also, and then I'll come back later.
Well, I can say, there's always more work to do, I think is the appropriate answer there. Certainly, we do our best at the Amputee Coalition to provide services for as many people as possible. One of the problems that exist is a lack of data that exists for the limb loss and limb difference population in the United States. This is something that we've been trying to remedy at the Amputee Coalition. Speaking to my role in government relations, we were working with Congress to get a study done on the number of people living with limb loss and limb difference in the United States, and then also commissioning our own study on the number of people living with limb loss and limb difference in the United States. So to answer the question more directly, no. I mean, obviously, people are still suffering. There's more work to be done. But it takes people like average community members setting up support groups, working with organizations like the Amputee Coalition or other organizations out there as well. I don't want to, monopolize the community that way. But working to help each other where the system won't or has not provided what is needed. So I would say no, there's not, but everyone should work as hard as they can to lift each other up. That's what we're trying to do at the Amputee Coalition, and I know there's a lot of passionate community advocates out here, like the folks hosting this program, that are working to fill that. And you can do it too.
Thank you, Ryan, for reading my mind, because that was going to be one of my questions that I was going to ask is what type of challenges that you face with your role that you are working in, and I kind of want to ask, because it's a very unique title, Grassroots. When we hear grassroots, we think of door knocking and people knocking on doors to increase awareness. Exactly how does grassroots work into your title?
So grassroots advocacy is, for me, if you've ever gotten an email from the Amputee Coalition asking you to email your congressman or make a phone call or write a letter, that very well may have been from me. I do a lot of targeted things whenever we're trying to convince a legislator of something. That's what I do. I try and mobilize people in the district to reach out, average people that are on our mailing lists, that are connected with the Amputee Coalition in one way or another, to reach out to their elected representatives and let them know that the limb loss and limb difference community is important and needs representation. So that's how the grassroots title works into what I do on a day-to-day basis. Just mobilizing average people to make their voices heard in government.
Last summer, I attended, my older son went with me, the hurricane preparedness. How many times through life does people have to reevaluate to see the changes and upgrades people need? I'll talk about that in a minute, Country C, because it's ongoing. It's going to be, my life plan is literally for the rest of my life. And I'm covered that way. But I wanted to share that last summer I went, it was like May, June, and I happened to see one of our mayors there. And so I took a picture with him and everything, and the Lord prompted me to go talk to him. I said, I'm not sure if you are aware, I know you've got a lot of things on your plate, but we have the Amputee Coalition, and I didn't have any of my prosthetics on me so he could tell. He said, I didn't know. I said, well, they're coming to our town. We got company coming. He's like, really? I said, could you write a letter just to welcome? He said, yeah, get in touch with my office, tell them what you need. He said, I will keep this in my mind and I'll look for that request. I said, thank you. We have 2 mayors here, one for county, one for city. So I said, well, if he could do it, let me contact, my other mayor. And I just did it. And he's got a whole template. All you have to do is put in the information, the date, the name of the organization, click, and submit. Next thing I know, they let me know it's on its way. And I got them, I found Ryan and I had never met Ryan, but I was like, where's Ryan? I want to see Ryan. And everybody, can I help you? No, I want to see Ryan, please. And I want to place these 2 proclamations in 2 welcome letters rather in his hand. So I have a mayor that had no idea. And the other mayor didn't either, that there was such thing as an Amputee Coalition. And then they're going to be in our city for 4 days. So that was awareness. I'm going to go back to both of them and talk to their project managing people and say, okay, I need you, now that we have a huge population here in Central Florida, what can you offer to do now? Can you set some monies aside now? We're going to need some support groups. We'll get a survey out there to you. Different things like that, because people like to hear from other people. So, that we start, that's what we do. We start right there where we're at with what we do have or who we have access to, and we try to get things going. Country C, what was your question again? How many times through life does someone have to get reevaluated? See, I'm telling you, the one thing that was concerning, we only got 5 minutes. Where did the time go? It was just 7:26. Oh my goodness. This always happens. My prosthetic folks are very concerned about if I'm losing weight in my arm, or this whole piece here, and I'm working out and everything. So they're prepared. They're always asking me, bring in your cosmetic arm. Let's see how that's looking, because my hand that they had put on there looked like a child's hand. And my prosthetic person said, no, I'm not going. No, I'm turning it back in. Can anyone write these letters, or do you have to be in the community? Ryan?
Write these letters for
support or services, or I guess maybe for governmental assistance. Like we have this here.
Anybody can get involved with that. And actually, your story about your continuing relationship with the mayors is a perfect example of what we train people to do at the Amputee Coalition with our government relations program. We really encourage people to not reach out just once, but to continue to reach out and build that relationship with the office, so that way they know you. You can build some kind of cachet with the office, so they know who you are. They know that your input is intelligent and reasonable, and they are more likely to listen to what you have to say. So building that relationship with elected officials is a really, really great way to make your voice heard for anything. And that's what we encourage people to do for limb loss and limb difference advocacy. So anybody can do it. There's plenty of resources on our website. I'd be more than happy to help anybody out with that. You can find my email on the website as well.
Yeah, so everybody in the audience, please go to the Amputee Coalition and take a look at all the services and activities they offer and everything. And then, like Ryan said, he's there. He'll get back to you, and he'll make sure he understands exactly what your question is, so he can point you in the right direction and everything. He's excellent with that. And there are other folks too that are a part of that I've had to reach out to, and he'll very gently say, no, what, you may need to talk to this person. And then I go to that person, and they're very welcoming and everything. But yeah, Country C things, should we mention this show? You could. You could, and say, hey, we met Ryan Geddie, and just say his name. They'll know who he is, okay? They will know. And they're like, oh, okay. Yeah, so as far as retrofitting your size and everything, your body changes. You can gain weight, you can lose weight, and everything changes. So I've had some pieces that I had to, for my fingers, that for my right hand, that had to go back because they had to move different things around, and that whole world of who builds stuff, and it's just amazing to see that. So and to be a part of that, and it's a whole little world, it's a whole community, and we know what we're saying. We're asking the questions, and even if we're not quite sure, there's always someone to say, well, do you mean this way? Do you mean this way? I think this is great. And guys, thank you all for asking these questions. But please go on to Amputee Coalition website and just say, hey, we heard Mr. Geddie talking about some things. So we want to get involved. We want to help. Whether you're a part of that, whether you're actually an amputee or not, but we want to, support this group in our cities, because I've got folks from Louisiana, I've got folks from Texas, I've got folks, here in Florida, Virginia, so we're kind of spread out, and then we've got a great audience that comes back behind the scenes and re-listens to the posts. And like I said, we're on 100 platforms, so we're out there pretty much and pretty well. So, but I'm just glad that we could have this conversation. And again, I didn't even know this world existed until I had to become a part of it. And I'm going to ask questions, and I'm going to say, who's doing this, what's doing, and count, you meet some good people, and they stay in touch. I have a few people on the thread that I say, give me a call, because I didn't want to get too involved with the thread, because they were asking some personal things And they've actually called me, and I've actually talked to them about resources and how to, a conversation you need to have with your practitioners and things like that. So that's been rewarding. We took it off the thread, and they've emailed me back and say, hey, can you talk, and stuff like that. So anything else, guys, you all want to, any closing remarks, Ryan, if you would? We only have 4 more minutes, but anything you want to add, please?
Well, I'll just say thank you again so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure to speak with you all about the Amputee Coalition and my small role in the movement for disability rights and for working for the limb loss and limb difference population. It's a great thing. I hope to see many of you reaching out. I'm more than happy to get you connected. There's always work to do, but keep fighting. Keep spirits high. I think that's an important thing, and work with others. Nobody likes to fight alone for the things that they need. So getting connected with others is a really important thing.
Well, Ryan, I just want to say thank you. You seem to be a young man who has faced a challenge. And you've taken that challenge and made it into an opportunity. And you've really increased the awareness. You're showing that you're not letting obstacles stop you, and you're really walking a mile in regards to helping those who are not knowing where to go. And you are definitely that beacon of light that some people need to see, and see how you're advocating for them. So if you don't hear thank you, I want to make sure you get thanks, the thank you that you deserve.
Well, thank you so much. That's very kind of you to say.
Mickey, I think the first thing I would say to somebody is you have to find your new normal. And I just wrote that on one of the threads. Find your new normal. Figure it out. It takes a minute. It takes a minute, because you look at where you were prior to. So encourage them. This is a new normal. Everybody's situation is different. And you're going to have to embrace your surgeons and your prosthetic folk. You need to embrace them, and let them know what your needs are, because they can't read our minds. They cannot read our minds. So that's one thing I had, when COVID hit during this time, everybody's like, they were fussing about, this new normal. And I'm like, that is so funny, because I have a new normal every day. I've been having a new normal every day since I woke up out of the coma in 2018 while being in the hospital. So I to this day, I'm like, I'm listening to my body. I'm walking. My daughter was funny. I think it was my daughter. Yeah, it was my daughter the other day. She goes, "Mom, you walking kind of fast," And I was like, "Yeah, I'm just trying to get across the street, because I don't know if anybody can see me. I'm just trying to get to where I got to go." But I was determined. I'm working with a trainer now, who's never worked with somebody who's an amputee. So he's being taught something. He's listening to me, and he's watching, and he's like, "Okay, he did a great assessment for me, but you have to let these people in." And at my social worker who came to my room, she introduced herself. She goes, "I'm gonna have to get in your business." And I said to her, "I'm gonna have to let you." So we understood that I have to let you, and make sure you got that master's in social work. Okay, that's our time. Thank you all again. We're gonna see you next week, same time, same station. Night, night.